Forget the stock formula. Pulak Prasad's What I Learned About Investing from Darwin says biology beats math. Do you know what Charles Darwin and a stock picker have in common? On the surface, nothing. One watched finches on a remote island. The other stares at red and green charts, hunting the next move. Sounds like a joke with no punchline. But here's the uncomfortable idea at the center of a remarkable book. The same law that decides which species survive a brutal wilderness may also decide which companies outlast a brutal market. If that's true, everything you thought you knew about investing is aimed at the wrong target. That book is What I Learned About Investing from Darwin by Pulak Prasad. Prasad is not a theorist. He's a battle-tested investor. He spent years at McKinsey, then co-ran the India business at Warburg Pincus, and in 2007 founded Nalanda Capital in Singapore. The firm focuses on Indian public companies, manages around $5 billion, and has returned close to 20% a year since inception. In 2024, the book was named a McKinsey Business Book of the Year. So when this man says investing is really biology, you listen. His claim is almost rude in its simplicity. Stop predicting the market. Start understanding which species are built to survive. Part 1. The market is a jungle, not a math problem. Most people treat investing like engineering. They hunt the perfect formula, the secret indicator, the magic line on a chart, as if the market were a rocket they could aim. Feels like control. But the market has humbled that mindset for a century. The map was upside down. The stock market is not a math problem. It is a vast, ancient jungle. Picture it. Slow giants and darting newcomers. Sunlight and rain are capital and policy. Raw predation is competition. Every so often a climate catastrophe hits. A new technology arrives, and old kings cannot find food. And threaded through it all are millions of anxious, greedy, fearful animals. That's us. You cannot predict the next move of a place that's alive and emotional with a frozen equation. So Prasad's first advice: stop treating investing like physics. Treat it like biology. That shift changes your role. You stop guessing the index every morning and become a patient gardener. A good gardener doesn't pray for sunshine. He studies his soil, industry fundamentals, and its climate, the big trends. He picks a few seeds he trusts, plants them, waters them, and waits. He doesn't dig them up daily to check. He believes good soil and good seed, given time, grow the tree. You put down the crystal ball and pick up the telescope that actually sees the present. Part 2. Natural selection rewards the fittest, not the strongest. Who runs this jungle? What decides which companies live and which vanish? The first law is natural selection. Most people hear that and think survival of the strongest. Big eats small. That's the crudest layer, and it's wrong. Prasad repeats the key distinction. Evolution rewards not the strongest, but the fittest. The polar bear is pure muscle, a king in the Arctic. Drop it in the Sahara, and it lasts a day, because all that fur becomes a deadly burden. The camel looks weak but is built for the desert. No absolute strength, only relative fit. Nokia ruled phones like a polar bear, untouchable, until the climate changed and the smartphone arrived. Its old strengths, like its closed system, became the weight that sank it. Apple and Android, new species built for the new climate, fit better and took the ecosystem. The invisible hand never asks how glorious a company was yesterday. It asks one cold question. Do you still fit? What is the climate in business? Prasad boils it down to 4 selection pressures. Customers, the deadliest. Every company must eat, and the customer's wallet is the only food. Tastes shift, the menu shifts. Learn to eat the new food or starve. People left malls for online carts and TVs for short video, and well-fed companies wasted away. Technology, the most violent. A disruptive technology is an asteroid. The internet was that asteroid. Newspapers and stores, dinosaurs of the old climate, stopped breathing. Artificial intelligence is the next one on the horizon. Competition, the most daily. There is always a tiger copying you. But the jungle is also symbiosis. Your supplier, customer, even rival can be a partner. Policy, the most unavoidable. This is the river rerouting, the volcano erupting. One new rule can be extinction for the dependent and rain for the prepared. These 4 filter every species daily. Your job is not to pray for calm. It is to study the land before planting. Is the climate friendly? The food abundant? The predators fearsome? Could the ground quake? Find the tree born for drought and plant it. Part 3. The moat. A company's survival equipment. A great company's genes have a dull-sounding name. The moat. This book's best move is bringing it to life through biology. A moat is simply the survival equipment a company evolved to win the fight. Moat 1. Intangible assets. The peacock's tail is a liability by pure logic, heavy, energy-hungry, easy to spot. Yet gaudier tails win more mates, because the tail is a signal that cannot be faked. Top brands are that tail. Faced with a row of colas, you grab Coca-Cola without thinking because a century of history built a signal, choose me, safe. That signal lets the brand charge more. Trust signals that cost a fortune to send. Ignore the cheap ones. Moat 2. Network effects. One ant is nothing. 10,000 linked by scent build an empire no individual imagines, and leaving is lethal. WeChat is the defining colony of our age. Everyone you love lives inside it, so each new friend makes it more valuable, and leaving means losing your world. Every new user enriches all the old. The system becomes impossible to quit. Moat 3. Cost advantage. This is the shark's body, built over hundreds of millions of years to move with the least energy. Cost leaders, Walmart through scale, early Dell through supply chain, earn fatter margins in good times and may be the only species that survives the famine on bark. Moat 4. Switching costs. The hermit crab has no shell and must occupy an empty one. Outgrowing it forces a deadly choice. Stay cramped or crawl out bare to hunt a new home. That is the cost of leaving. A firm running its finance software for 15 years will not switch even for a better tool, because migrating data and retraining staff is agony. That inertia is the deepest moat. Prasad warns, every moat can be breached. Climates shift, the finest equipment grows worthless. More important than owning a moat is the capacity to keep reinforcing it, to keep mutating. A great company bakes the instinct to change into its culture. Part 4. The ecological niche. Escape the red ocean. The wisest naturalists know the smartest strategy is often to avoid the fight. Darwin saw this on the Galapagos. Finch species share one ancestor yet evolved radically different beaks. One to crack seeds, one to probe flowers, one for a specific grain. Each branched off to eat what others could not, finding a unique role. Biologists call it the ecological niche. Evolution's genius is filling every niche through difference, not endless war. In business, the opposite has a brutal name. Involution. A Chinese word for a crowd all rushing the same narrow door. Everyone piling into one opportunity with identical products, trapped in price wars. That is the red ocean. The escape is the blue ocean strategy. Find open water. DJI spotted the empty middle of the drone market between toy gadgets and military machines, and made consumer aerial photography small, smart, affordable. It defined a new category and became its king. How to spot a niche owner. 3 tells. The big fish in a small pond. A boring industry attracts no armies, so one quiet player becomes number one with pricing power and fat margins. The category creator. If people use its brand as the category, search means Google, electric car means Tesla, it built its own niche. The cult brand. Niche owners solve one group's acute pain and earn ferocious loyalty. Customers follow a creed, ignore price, sneer at rivals. Investing is not only chasing the strongest lion. It is finding the koala in its quiet corner with almost no predators, less flashy, far more stable. Part 5. Extinction and the survivorship bias. Even kings share one final fate. Extinction. The unsettling fact. Earth's history is a family album where the living are one small photo on the last page, and every earlier page is crammed with the erased. Scientists estimate more than 99% of everything that ever lived is gone. From a long enough view, failure is the default. Survival is the rare exception. Business runs the same law. The famous companies are the bright survivors. In the dark beyond lie the fossils, Kodak, Nokia. A mature investor's first instinct must be respect for risk. Failure is not a rare accident. It is the system's normal output. What causes mass extinction? The book's answer is an asteroid. For over 100 million years, dinosaurs were perfect adapters. Then the asteroid hit, the food chain collapsed, and every advantage became fatal. The small mammals inherited the Earth. Prasad argues disruptive technology is the business asteroid. The internet rewrote the rules overnight. Blockbuster's store network went from core asset to crushing cost while tiny Netflix became king. And artificial intelligence is the asteroid already on the horizon. That leads to investing's most tempting trap, the survivorship bias. In World War II, planners studied returning bombers, saw holes in the wings and tail, and wanted to armor those spots. A statistician named Abraham Wald said the opposite. Those planes came home, so those hits were not fatal. The places with no holes, cockpit, engines, were where the dead planes were hit and never returned. We stare at survivors and ignore the crashed. It makes us overrate success and learn wrong lessons. We study Buffett and Musk and rarely the bankrupt. The result is a prettified world. Prasad's answer is a fossil mindset. When you study a winner, force yourself to find a peer that failed and learn why. Spend more than half your time on how it might go extinct. Part 6, The Naturalist's 3 Disciplines. We have the map. Selection, moats, niches, extinction. How to walk it. The book ends with discipline over cleverness. 3 practices. 1. Stretch your time horizon. Evolution accumulates tiny advantages over vast time. A day trader's unit is minutes. A naturalist's is years, even decades. A bad quarter is 1 rain shower. A hype headline is a beam of sunlight. Lengthen the lens and the daily noise filters out. The long trend that decides destiny rises into view. 2. Guard your own small patch. This is the circle of competence. A fine biologist spends a life on 1 frog and becomes the world expert. The jungle is too big to know every species. Root yourself in the ecosystem you understand, consumer goods, tech, manufacturing, and learn its players deeply. Success is not how many stocks you know, but how deeply you know the few you hold. 3. Do nothing. You observed for years, found a fine seed, planted it. Now mostly nothing. The greatest enemy is endless fidgeting. A farmer who digs up his seed daily kills it. Constant trading is that digging. A fine business's intrinsic value is the strongest engine there is. Your job is to give it the one nutrient it cannot buy, time. Let compounding, nature's most powerful force, work in peace. The evolutionary lens also reshapes the portfolio. Not a zoo of unrelated animals, but a working ecosystem. A few redwood giants giving steady cash flow as your ballast, and a few agile monkeys for imagination. The goal is an anti-fragile system. When the climate favors monkeys, they leap. When it turns harsh, the redwoods stand. Closing, investing as a way to join the world's evolution. The book's final word. Investing is not merely a skill for making money. It is a way to participate in the evolution of the world. Through evolutionary eyes, you are not picking cold codes. You are choosing living species struggling to adapt. You cast a vote of trust for the tougher, more innovative ones. The best investment is to find the force pushing the world forward and become part of it. That, perhaps, is the wisdom Darwin leaves us across more than a century, about investing, and about how we ought to live. If what I learned about investing from Darwin shifted how you see the market, tell me which idea stays with you, the moat, the niche, or the fossil mindset. And which species are you holding through the next asteroid? I read every one.